It started on a chilly October morning, the kind where the fog hangs low and clings to the ground like a living thing. I had just transferred to St. Alder High, an old school tucked away at the edge of town, surrounded by whispering pine trees and heavy silence. From the very first day, something about the place didn't sit right with me. The halls echoed more than they should have, and the air always smelled faintly of damp stone and something older, something rotten. My first class was history, room 106. It was located at the end of the East Wing, a part of the school that, as I later found out, students jokingly called the cold hall. They said it was always a few degrees colder than the rest of the building, no matter the weather. I remember stepping into that room and feeling like I had walked into a freezer. Everyone else acted normal, chatting and laughing, but I couldn't shake the chill. I told myself it was just nerves. That day, as our teacher droned on about the founding of the school, I noticed something strange. In the far left corner of the room, the paint on the wall looked darker, not just aged, but stained, like something had seeped through from the other side. I kept glancing at it, distracted, until I realized I wasn't the only one. A girl 2 seats ahead kept glancing back at me, then at the wall, as if she was trying to gauge whether I saw it too. When the bell rang, she rushed out before I could ask. Over the next few days, little things began to happen. My locker would be slightly open when I was certain I'd locked it. I'd hear faint tapping in the hallways during class, rhythmic and slow, but whenever I looked out, nothing. One afternoon, I stayed behind in room 106 to finish a project. The lights flickered once, twice, then dimmed to a dull orange glow. I looked up and saw, clear as day, the outline of a handprint on the inside of the window. Not outside, inside. The problem was, the room had no access to that window from the inside. It was sealed shut with bolts, and there was a bookshelf in front of it. I didn't breathe for what felt like a full minute. When I blinked, it was gone. The girl who had been staring at the wall finally spoke to me a week later. Her name was Mia. She asked if I'd ever heard of Lucas Bennett. I hadn't. She told me he was a student who went missing 10 years ago. No one knew what happened. His last known location, room 106. She said she'd seen things too. Shadows that moved on their own, whispers in the middle of desks, and her name written on her desk in red ink she didn't put there. That night, I dreamt of the wall. In the dream, it was pulsing, breathing even, and I could hear someone calling my name from inside it, slow and muffled like underwater cries. When I woke up, my bed sheets were damp and cold, like I had been lying on wet ground. I tried to tell myself it was all stress. New school, new people, a weird old building with a creepy vibe. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The wall in room 106 was hiding something, and whatever it was, it had started noticing me. The next week was when everything truly began to spiral. It started with the whispers. At first, I thought it was just background noise. Students murmuring in the halls, teachers talking behind closed doors. But this was different. The whispers would come when no one else was around. I'd be walking alone through the East Wing, and I'd hear them. Low, breathy voices, almost like someone speaking just behind me, right into my ear. The words weren't always clear, but I could catch fragments. Come closer. He's still here. And once, you saw it, didn't you? The strangest thing was that Mia stopped talking to me completely. After the day she mentioned Lucas Bennett, it was like she'd been warned off. I'd try to approach her, ask more, but she'd look right past me like I wasn't even there. I began to feel like I was unraveling, caught between reality and something I couldn't explain. One afternoon, I stayed after school to retrieve a book I had left behind in room 106. The hallway was empty, the usual after-class bustle already gone. As I stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind me on its own. I spun around, heart racing, but the handle turned just fine when I checked it. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The temperature dropped again. Sharp, biting cold that crept into my bones. I grabbed the book and turned to leave when I heard it. Footsteps. Inside the room, behind me. Slow, deliberate, one after the other on the wooden floorboards. I turned around, expecting someone to be there. A prank, maybe. But the room was empty. Yet the sound continued. Step, 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 coming closer. My mouth went dry and I backed away toward the door. The lights above me began to buzz and flicker violently. Then I saw it. The bookshelf in front of the sealed window began to tremble slightly, as if something behind it was pushing, testing the boundary. Without thinking, I ran. I didn't stop until I was outside the building, gasping in the cold air. That night I searched for Lucas Bennett's name online. There were no official reports, no missing posters, just old Reddit threads and obscure forums, mostly filled with rumors. One post stood out. It was written by a former student from 10 years ago. It claimed Lucas had been acting strangely before he vanished, talking about voices, seeing a face in the wall. The post ended cryptically saying, "Room 106 should have been sealed, not just locked." The next morning, I approached one of the janitors, Mr. Holloway, an older man who had worked at the school for decades. I asked him about room 106, trying to sound casual. His face darkened immediately. "That room's cursed," he muttered, refusing to look me in the eye. "Kids always feel something in there. Cold spots, shadows. But no one ever listens. They painted over the wall, but it never worked. Still bleeds through." "Bleeds through?" I asked, voice trembling. He just walked away. By then, I was barely sleeping. The dreams got worse. I saw the wall again, but this time, it was cracked open, and something was crawling out. A pale, stretched figure with hollow eyes and blood on its hands. I'd wake up screaming, drenched in sweat. My parents grew concerned, but I couldn't tell them the truth. What would I even say? Things escalated further during a history exam. We were all silent, writing, when suddenly the lights cut out completely. A heavy, unnatural darkness swallowed the room. Then came the sound. Not footsteps this time, but scratching. From inside the walls, all around us. Some students screamed. Our teacher, Mr. Keller, tried to calm us down, fumbling for the emergency lights. When they came on a few seconds later, we saw the wall. The same stained section in the corner. Now it was darker than ever. A deep reddish-brown mark that hadn't been there when class started. And written on it, faintly, were words, "Let me out." After that, they moved our class to another room. The official story was that room 106 had structural issues. No one asked questions. But I knew. I felt it. The thing in that room wasn't just haunting the space anymore. It was getting stronger. Mia finally spoke to me again, pulling me aside after school. Her face was pale, eyes haunted. "It's not done with you," she whispered. "It mocked you. You look too long." It wants to finish what it started with Lucas. I asked her what that meant, but she just shook her head and ran. I thought about leaving, telling my parents I wanted to change schools. But something held me back. Not fear, exactly. It was more like an obsession. I needed to know what was behind that wall. I needed to understand what had happened to Lucas, because deep down, I knew if I didn't face it, whatever it was, it wouldn't just haunt room 106 anymore. It would follow me. And I was starting to think that maybe it already was. The final day began with silence. Not the usual kind, but a heavy, suffocating silence. The kind that makes your ears ring and your skin crawl. The whole school felt off. Students whispered nervously, and teachers seemed distracted. A rumor had spread that another student had gone missing, a sophomore named Daniel. His last class had been in the East Wing, room 106. By then, I couldn't ignore the pull anymore. I knew I had to go back, not out of courage, but out of something deeper. Maybe desperation. Maybe the sense that the longer I waited, the more power it gained over me. I waited until school ended. Everyone cleared out quickly that day, the air thick with unspoken fear. I slipped through the empty hallways, every step echoing like a warning. When I reached room 106, I stood in front of the door for a long time, hand trembling on the handle. And then, I opened it. Inside, everything was the same. The dust in the air, the faded posters on the walls, the eerie, unnatural cold. But this time, the corner where the stain had been was now different. The paint was peeling, large flakes falling to the floor like dried skin. The wall was breathing again, gently expanding and contracting like lungs beneath plaster. I couldn't move. Then the voices returned. Loud now, clear. Help me. Let me out. He's still here. And then I saw it. A small crack in the wall. Just a hairline at first, then wider, splitting slowly like the mouth of something waking up. A gust of icy wind blasted from it, carrying the smell of mold, dust, and something dead. My legs screamed at me to run, but my body refused. From the crack, a hand reached out. It was pale and gray, fingers long and thin, nails blackened. It grasped the edge of the wall like it was climbing out of a grave. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. Then came a face, not fully formed, like it had been trapped in there for too long, features blurred, but eyes wide and hollow. I didn't know if it was Lucas. I didn't even know if it was human anymore. Then everything went black. When I woke up, I was in the nurse's office. A teacher had found me collapsed in the hallway, unconscious. They said I must have fainted from stress. No one mentioned room 106. No one even acknowledged its existence when I asked, like it had been erased. Mia was gone too. I asked around, but no one seemed to know who I was talking about. One student said there'd never been a Mia in our grade. Another told me room 106 had been closed for years. I started questioning everything. Was it real? Had I imagined all of it? But the proof was there. At home, I found the book I had picked up from room 106, the one I had gone back for the first time. Inside the front cover, scribbled in red ink, was a single sentence. He watches through the cracks. And in the mirror, sometimes at night, I see something behind me. A flicker of movement. A shadow with hollow eyes. The mystery of room 106 was never solved. Lucas was never found. Mia may never have existed. But I know one thing. Something was trapped in that wall. And now, it's no longer alone.